Yeah. Okay, transformation. Um, just just a little step back before we get to the poem. One thing that I've been teaching on now for a while is the fact that we all are gifted with three incredible operating systems in us: the survival operating system, which we access right away as we come out of the womb. Uh, Sometimes called the childhood operating system. Uh, then as we develop the left brain, go to school, we'll start learning, getting beyond our family and learning how to read, write, think. Then we can start to inhabit a strategic operating system. I mean, when you're a infant, the other two operating systems aren't available, but we can operate the strategic operating system. And then waiting there to be sort of clicked on is the sacred operating system. Now, how these differ, I give you another way to look at these, that the survival operating system is instinctual and reactive. It's a reactive. And to this day, it can be helpful if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden, you're just sort of, do you ever drive and wonder how you got home, on those nights where you're just late nights or maybe drunk nights, but how did I get home? Well, you're working on that base operating system, but you might be driving along, maybe you're thinking about, maybe you're sober and awake, but you're looking out the window and all of a sudden the guy comes across, you see the guy coming towards you at 60 miles an hour and he's starting to come across the line. Well, you jerk out of the way. That's your survival operating system. It's reactive. It's not about thought. It's got to be more instantaneous than that. So that's thank goodness for that, and that we have to keep a certain level of that. Okay, but it's reactive, and it's the body and it's instinct. Okay, now the strategic operating system is it's transactive. It's transactional because we're using logic now. It's more sophisticated. You can, we make transactions every day. You go to the store, you buy something. Maybe you look at several items and you decide which one's best for you. This is all transactional. It's very helpful. And you had to use your transactional mind to get on the broadcast today. And this is the transactional media here. Okay, it could also be transformational. Usually is, but it's at least that, because this is we have a logic board in here. We don't have an instinct board. We have a logic board. When your logic board goes out of your computer, game over. You got to get a new one. And then the third one, the sacred operating system, it's not reactive, it's not transactional, although it includes those. It's primarily transformative. It's really meant, when we're talking about really changing something, that's why warfare has never changed anything. Might change you might change the lines on the map, might change, this leader or that leader, but in the end, it's not transformational. That's why the Dalai Lama keeps preaching that war is out of date. When are we going to figure this out? It's transformational. Meditation is transformational. Prayer is transformational. Life can be transformational, like you put yourself in certain situations. You get out of Bardstown and go to Haiti. That's transformational. People in warfare, individuals get transformed with acts of heroism or acts of bravery or whatever. But the actual war itself, that process is transactional, you see. Yeah, it's why things don't change much at that level. The world will change as we change. That's like bottom line. And Jesus was leading that way. Buddha was leading that way. The great mystics are saying, you've got to change. And hopefully that's why you're here. Okay, so today's poem was a poem I wrote a long time ago, and I've been rewriting it. And so this is the latest version. We have this. For those of you guys who popped in late, screen share here. That's uh, the cook lady at our school. She's cooking up a pot of it's like a slurry of red beans, which she'll put over rice. We feed the kids when we can get food. We've been feeding them their one meal a day at lunch, and then they go home. They leave about noon. You know, it's a half a day of school in Haiti. Afternoon, it's too darn hard to learn anything. But the main thing is we give them the meal, and she's stirring the Haitian bean mix, which is it's quite good, quite nutritious. There's a lot of stuff in there besides beans. But anyway, so that's sort of the image I'm using, and the poem I'm going to share with you is called "Trusting the Cook Pot." All right, so here's the poem, and then we'll reflect on it a little bit. The ever-present 3 rocks and a pot is the essential heart of every Haitian kitchen. And under the pot, between the rocks, is firewood or charcoal. Somehow that image of the Haitian cook pot has deepened in my consciousness over the decades and now rests in the cave of my heart. Every time I sit in meditation, straighten my spine, tuck my chin in a little bit, move my ears back over the shoulders, and breathe in. Breathe deep into my body. The fire under the cook pot glows a little brighter. During meditation, when thoughts or emotions arise, no matter how luscious or poisonous, I welcome them kindly and drop them into the cook pot. Welcome them kindly and drop them into the cook pot. I let them simmer and marinate. I trust that the heart of this awakened body, in all its wisdom and compassion, will know how to transform whatever arises into a savory soup to feed the soul of this hungry planet. Yeah. The ever-present 3 rocks and a pot is the essential heart of every Haitian kitchen, and under the pot, between the rocks, is firewood or charcoal. Somehow, that image of the Haitian cook pot has deepened my consciousness over the decades and now rests in the cave of my heart. Every time I sit in meditation and straighten my spine, tuck my chin, move my ears back over the shoulders, breathe in, breathe deep into my body, the fire under the cook pot glows a little brighter. During meditation, when thoughts or emotions arise, no matter how luscious or poisonous, I welcome them kindly and drop them into the cook pot. I let them simmer and marinate. I trust that the heart of this awakened body, in all its wisdom and compassion, will know how to transform whatever arises into a savory soup to feed the soul of this hungry planet. Let's a couple of reflections on that. Oops, lost it somewhere. Yeah. Machines. It was nice because I was sort of working on this during the week because we sat for 3 hours a day in silence, 6 times 25, plus the rest of the silence because we were keeping our trap shut pretty much. And so we're in a lot of silence, but sitting in the actual 6 sits a day, a lot comes up. And actually, believe it or not, when you sit in an intensive like that, the monkey mind does slow down, and there's space and space to actually hear a voice that you can't hear normally. It's drowned out by the normal, comings and goings of all the strategic work you have to do. Somebody says something, and you react, and so that fills you up, and so it's nice to sit there, uh, and but the essential thing that we'll do in a few minutes when we hit the bell and go into meditation, the essential thing is we were in the silence, and as thoughts come up, doesn't matter whether they're great thoughts, insights, poisonous thoughts, hateful thoughts, luscious thoughts, we just drop them. We just let them go. You don't have to push them out. You don't even, the key is don't even try to resist them, because what you resist persists, as they say. No, just gently lay them aside. Just let go of them, and they will drop. And I like to say that they drop into the cook pot, because they don't go anywhere. They don't evaporate. They're still there, but they make a kind of soup, and you can trust the cook. You can trust the whole process. When you're sitting for days and days and you've committed to do that, you better trust the process, because your mind doesn't know what's happening. Mind is steady stream of blah blah blah, but even strategic. Oh, gee, maybe I'd ever do it this way. But beneath all that, there's something else going on. My first meditation teacher, Suzuki Roshi, he said, "Don't think you know what's going on as you sit on your cushion. You know some things, because that's the stuff that's going across your mind. That's in the mental level. But the real serious stuff is happening at a much deeper level, down in the cook pot, down in the subconscious, as psychologists would call it. It's out of your consciousness, so you can't, of course, know what's going on. But believe me, there's a lot going on. Even when the only thing you see for 20 minutes is, this puppy mind that's running all over the place. I sometimes call it puppy mind too. Puppies eventually will settle down if you get the knack of this, and if you stay with it, and if you practice a little bit every day, and then occasionally jump into an intensive where you really learn some things, because 6 times a day times 25, you ought to be learning something. You will learn something about dropping these things down, and about what comes up, what kind of soup gets made from this, you see. Well, the last paragraph bears repeating, I think. If you can get this kind of relationship to whatever arises, your normal blah, 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 monkey mind, or insight, strong emotion, positive, negative, your mind drifts, whatever it is, if you could meet it kindly, first of all, it's like a change of attitude when you're in meditation. Meet everything with a kind of terrific kindness, and then just let it go. You're not pushing it away, but you're not holding on to it. You just let it go, and it will drop. Gravity will drop. We'll take it, and it'll go into the pot, and then just let it simmer and marinate there. And then the key line, I think, in the final stanza is, I trust that the heart, that's what your sacred operating system is. It's what's called by contemplative traditions the heart. Buddhism seems to be about the mind, but if you go deep enough with it, they talk about, really, in Tibetan or in Asian languages, it's rare that they separate the mind and the heart with different words like we do. It's usually the same word. And so the heart being just the depths of the mind, you see, consciousness gone to the deepest part. So to trust at the heart of this awakened body, because your body is awake too. Your body is extremely intelligent. That's how you can avoid these collisions sometimes. That's how the body tells you. That's why you have to listen to the body too. So these three operating systems, the body, the mind, the heart, you put all three of these systems together and you integrate them. And that's what we call, that's what contemplative people call the soul, if they talk about the soul at all. Most Buddhists don't talk about the Tibetans talk about it though. But it's always this, your entire consciousness, your body is conscious, your mind is conscious, and this heart is the essence of consciousness there. These three things together is what is called the soul. You don't have a soul. This is a big wake-up call when you just even can accept this. You don't have a soul. You are a soul with a body, a mind, and a heart, with these three operating systems. Now, where do you want to have your center of gravity? Because, I go back and forth from these various operating systems all throughout the day. And, but it's a sort of a question of over time, if you have a serious contemplative practice and if you've had certain experiences, when I see a guy like the guys on my altar, Merton, the Dalai Lama, you meet the Dalai Lama, you're meeting a guy who's generally his center of gravity is in the heart. And he might go to the transactional thing of the mind to work out something. And of course, the body is always present, but it's like for most of my life, I lived in the transactional mind, and that's fine. That's fine. But then somebody would say something and piss me off. Well, all of a sudden it's firing up that body thing. When you get angry, when you feel strong emotions, you're interacting. This reactive kind of thing that people have, that we all have. Well, you're firing up that childhood operating system, which is instinct, is emotion, is reaction. So the big question is, where do you, as you do this work, your sense of gravity shifts. We have all kinds of political figures with immense power who the center of their gravity is in their childhood operating system. And we don't have to name any names, but many people in all countries are like this, and they're not people whose center of gravity is in the heart. And so that's job number one, I think, if you're on the transformative path. Because if you normally hang out in the heart, if that's your center of gravity, you are a kind of transformational. The world will change based on what you put out. You've met people who just changed you just with their presence. I have. So, this Sunday, heart to heart, it changes me every time, because there's the group has a transformative presence. As a group, we were all over the place as people in any given moment, but as a group, when we get the group presence here is transformational. And I think that's what church was in the beginning. That's what the Sangha is for Buddhists, the community, Yeah, and the last line, somehow we'll figure out how to transform whatever arises into a kind of savory soup, a meal, nourishment to feed the soul of a hungry planet, because the souls of people are hungry. Why are so many young kids committing suicide or going into grocery stores and blowing a bunch of other people away? They're hungry. Their soul is hungry. The soul demands meaning, you see, and all kinds of pain and suffering come from souls that are not fed. And So trust, when we sit in a moment, uh, try to follow the basic practice of just letting thoughts, just let them go. They'll drop into the cook pot. They'll marinate. There's nothing that hatred, anger, malice. Rumi says, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. In other words, meet them kindly. Don't worry about it. Just go of it. And every element somehow has some truth in it. And after a while, you'll be eating and serving truth. Truth soup. That would be nice. Kindness soup. That would be nice. Okay, so let's get ourselves ready to dive in.